Another busy morning of testimony in the trial against Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson, both charged in connection to the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. Thank you for joining us on our afternoon update here on WHAS 11 Plus. I'm Gabriel Gonzalez. Alexandra Goldberg is live from outside that Warren County courtroom. Catch us up on what we've heard so far this morning.
Gabe, you said it. It was a busy morning. I have my notebook right here with all of the notes. Let's start off with who opened up for us this morning. Two IRS agents filling in some details that we've been hearing about tape recorders throughout this entire trial. They testified that on August 6, 2020, agents executed a search warrant and they found two digital voice recorders inside of a pair of pants in a closet in the bedroom. They also found a bag labeled stamp bag with a tape recorder that was inside of a dresser found in the master bedroom. A juror asked, whose home was this? They responded, Rosemary's home. Rosemary Houck is, of course, Brooks Houck's mother. So, moving on to the bombshell witness of this morning earlier today, Amber Bowman. She is the ex-girlfriend of Nick Houck, and she gave us some context into what they were doing or what they had planned on July 3rd. First, they were dating for about 7 years, and they both lived on Glenview Drive, right around the corner from Brooks and Crystal. She said that on July 3rd, 2015, Amber and Nick were supposed to be moving to a new home on Olympia Drive. She said, quote, that morning, Nick said he was going to help Brooks at a rental property, and I thought that created tension because we had a lot to do. Now, this new home, it needed some fixing up. They were moving in that day, and Nick went to go help Brooks with a rental property, according to this testimony. She said she called Nick 15 times between July 3rd and July 4th. Again, no answer. We also heard that LMPD digital forensic expert testify that Nick Houck's phone was off for about 24 hours. She later says that she found Nick's phone at the home there on Olympia Drive, that new home. So when she was questioned by the special prosecutor Shane Young, representing the Commonwealth, Shane Young said, quote, you woke up that morning and Nick wasn't there? Is that normal behavior? She responds, no, he had never not come home before. Bowman said that it also wasn't typical for him to be off of his phone for 24 hours. And she continues to say that when Nick finally showed up at their home on Glenview Drive, she said, Nick said that he'd been working at the new house. Bowman said she couldn't tell any work was done. She saw some tools there, but no sign of Nick at all that day. Now, when she was cross-examined by Brian Butler, the attorney representing Brooks Houck, Brian Butler said, well, Nick was a police officer, so it was normal for him to be gone late at night. Bowman said, yeah, that's true. Butler continues to say, well, you told investigators in a statement that he would sometime work on rental properties late at night and he wasn't attached to his phone. She said, quote, I thought he might have been avoiding hearing more about moving, helping someone else. He might have been mad. Then Brian Butler asked, well, did he come home with any blood or mud on his clothing? She said no. Gabe.
Now, Alexandra, we just heard from a couple more witnesses right before lunch. What did they have to say?
Yeah, so 3 more witnesses took the stand. One is actually still on the stand, and we'll get to that in just a minute here. But really briefly, we had a detective from the Elizabethtown Police Department take the stand, and we're talking about phone records. This has been a major thing during the trial. Remember, this is all being prosecuted based on circumstantial evidence, so phone records are playing a really key role here. She said that she reviewed records for Rogers, Houck, and the Lawsons. She said that she found Brooks was receiving multiple phone calls the day of July 4th. Didn't pick up any of them except for one call from Rosemary, his mother. Moving on here to someone who worked at a local Dollar General in Bardstown, and he testified very briefly that the night of July 3rd, he saw Crystal's car parked there on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway, mile marker 14. He said, quote, he said that she was home when he went to bed at midnight, but I knew that couldn't be true. So this witness is sort of here trying to poke holes in the theory that Crystal and Brooks returned back to their home there on Glenview Drive around midnight. This witness is saying he saw the car much earlier than that. Now, one of the biggest witnesses that we've seen, he's actually still in the stand right now, as I've been mentioning, is Charlie Girdley. Now, he was a former Houck employee. I want to preface by saying he gave some pretty strong quotes, and they're a little tough to hear, just viewer discretion here. He says that Girdley said Joseph Lawson spoke to him once about Rogers. Quote, he said he would bury her with a skid steer and nobody would ever find her. He continues to say that on July 3rd, Joseph Lawson said, quote, he would pull her teeth and the hogs would do the rest. 2 weeks later, he testified that he was on the Houck family farm and Rosemary came up to him and said, quote, they would have been better off if she was gone long before she was. Now, he's being cross-examined right now, so we'll have more details on exactly what role Charlie Girdley will play in this testimony in a couple moments here. Gabe.
Now, Alexandra, this is the second week of testimony in this trial. You were there for the first one. What would you consider your biggest takeaway from last week?
As I mentioned before, cell phone evidence is playing a major role here. We've talked about the theme over and over again. This is being prosecuted on circumstantial evidence. No body, no weapon, no confession. So these records are playing a major role. But what we found is that the written statement that Brooks provided Detective John Snow just on July 5th, 2015, doesn't match up with what detectives found in cell phone records. Now, we heard from the digital forensic specialist with the Louisville Metro Police Department, Tim O'Daniel, and he found through Google records, which he say are very precise, giving exact coordinates at exact locations. He said that on July 3rd, Brooks's phone was found at the farm from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., then at a lumber store around 4:30, then at his home on Glenview Drive until 7:05, and then his phone was seen at the Houck family farm from about 7:25 until midnight, and then it was briefly spotted there at the My Old Kentucky Home campground around 12:15 a.m. The biggest takeaway here is, we've had just over 20 witnesses take the stand for the Commonwealth, and several of them testified against what Brooks wrote in that written statement. He said things like he was changing light bulbs and street lights, he was mowing the grass at some homes in a subdivision. Well, we had several witnesses take the stand and say, we didn't see Brooks. We didn't communicate with Brooks that day on July 3rd. So we're expecting to see some more of those cell phone records play a big role here. Now, we want to show you what we heard from other witnesses on Friday. Take a listen. Saw and heard Steve Lawson's ex-girlfriend Heather Snellen testifying about a conversation overheard from Steve's basement. Quote, the truth is I overheard Steve Lawson and Joseph Lawson talking about moving a body at the Houck farm with a skid steer. Snellen emotional as she exits the courtroom. The next witness testifying on precise cell phone data, poking holes in where Houck says he was on July 3rd, 2015. In a written statement to police, Houck listed the places he visited and the people he spoke to, never naming a daytime visit to his family farm. But Louisville Metro Police Department's digital forensic detective Tim O'Daniel says Google records show his phone was seen at the farm at 9:30 in the morning until 4 p.m. Data shows his phone at a lumber store for 20 minutes beginning at 4:22 and then at his home on Glenview Drive until 7:05 p.m. Then his cell phone is located once again at the Houck family farm at 7:25 p.m. where prosecutors believe Rogers never returned. Jurors then heard an emotional testimony from a Glenview Drive neighbor where Houck and Rogers lived. The week Rogers was reported missing, Mary Mattingly, also a friend of Rogers, observing odd behavior from Houck family members. Mattingly, who says she lived right across the street in 2015, says she saw Nick Houck and Rosemary Houck almost every day at the Houck residence the week of Rogers' disappearance. She says Rosemary was never there before then. On one occasion, Mattingly observing Nick and Rosemary entering Brooks' house and coming back outside to repark their cars with the trunks facing the basement. Then she sees Nick grabbing 4 white bags, but not like trash bags, and putting them inside of Rosemary's trunk. Rosemary also spotted by Mattingly digging up purple flowers from the home's front yard. Purple flowers, she says, that Rogers planted. Monday will bring a fresh set of witnesses and their stories. What happened that night on July 3rd?
Now, lastly, Alexandra, who else do we expect to take the stand today?
Well, if you saw a little bit of the commotion here in the rotunda, it looks like we just broke for lunch here. So we're expected to return around 1:15. Cross-examination was just happening with Charlie Girdley. We'll have the update about that cross-examination on our really extensive blog. All of our handwritten notes are posted up there on WHAS11.com. Gabe.
All right, thank you, Alexandra. And WHAS 11 News is again committed to bringing you the most thorough coverage of the trial. WHAS 11 legal analyst Nick Mudd joins us daily to break down the key moments of the day, along with Shay McAllister and Alexandra Goldberg reporting from the Bowling Green Courthouse. That is every night on the WHAS 11 Plus app at 9 o'clock. You can download the WHAS 11 Plus app on your TV and watch for free.